Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
Today I'm with a friend. This is Jay.
Hi.
So, to give a little introduction to who Jay is, I became a high school teacher when I moved to New York in 2008, and he was one of the first friends that I met. 2007. We met in 2007. We've been friends for 14 years. We've been friends for 14... No, that's wrong. I said that wrong. How many years has it been?
Math.
14.
I can't. This is 14.
It is. All right.
Wait, are we both bad at math?
Yes. We're math teachers together. That's how we met. Because we can't add and subtract.
24 minus 7 is 17. Outstanding. Yeah, I cut my board game teeth with you.
That's right.
Like, starting with Scrabble and...
We started with Scrabble. Actually, you know what? We're going to save it for today's topic.
Okay.
Because today's topic is how to introduce people to board games. All right. So, to kick things off, we're going to look at the... Oh, no. To kick things off, we're going to start with a definition. So, I asked this question, how do you introduce people to board games? And I think it's important we define those terms. What is it that we're introducing people to? What do you think the board game hobby is?
What is it?
What is the board game hobby? Like, what are we introducing people to when we introduce them to board games?
I mean, I like the social aspect of board games. That's the whole reason I was hanging out with you and Luke, right? Like, I wanted a space where we could sit around and do stuff, like, to fill in the conversation, kind of almost like it was a way for us to communicate and bond and become new friends in this new city that was new to me, to both of us. But in general, I mean, it's like finding out that you've got something new in common with somebody. Like, hey, we both like playing this.
Oh, I'm glad you're here today. I love it. I love it.
Okay, cool.
I'm so...
I mean, it worked.
It did. It's exactly right.
Like, yeah.
I might smile too much. This is so cool. All right, so I see it, like, I often talk about, well, I talk about one thing all the time. As board game dad, I'm always talking about introducing my kids to board games. And in fact, I did a video about how to introduce children to board games, especially like how to scaffold the teaching of rules. So, if you are interested in that, I will put a link to that video in the description after this stream is over. But I also see two elements. One, we have a board game group here in Okinawa, and when people are arriving to the group, one is like, how do I set them up to make connections in the group and have a good time in the group? And that's a different set than introducing people to the hobby. So 3 things: introducing kids, introducing people to like an existing club or group, and then introducing mostly friends to the hobby, the thing that you love. That's what we're talking about today. So I asked this question to my subscribers, which is up there. What aspects of the hobby game first hooked you? So, fascinated by the depth of strategy, drawn by the social and competitive aspects, transfixed by a game's aesthetics, or captivated by the variety and creativity of game mechanics. Now, most people said they were captivated by the variety and creativity of game mechanics. Oops. Take that down. If you would like to respond, you can also respond in the comments or in the live chat right now. So going back to us, we started out by playing Scrabble, and then from there, there were 2 games that I can't remember which one I played first. It was either Cosmic Encounter or Catan.
Cosmic was real early on, yeah.
Cosmic was really early on, and Catan was early on, but they were in different settings for me. Catan was at my church, and Catan was with my friends, and they sort of overlapped, but the real hook for me was actually Agricola, because I got into the hobby because of depth of strategy. Playing Agricola for the first time, losing by like 15 or 20 points, or, well, that would be abysmal in Agricola. In Agricola, the scores are like 20 points. So
14, 17.
yeah, 3. It set me up to wanting to play again. All right, I really liked. There were a couple of quotes on here that were really cool. So, Jacob Ramirez, he wrote, "More than just roll and move." That just blew my mind, and that I think really speaks to this variety. Captivated by the variety and creativity of game mechanics, because that's true. In the 90s, the games that I had were either party games, or they were like Monopoly and Sorry and all of that.
Yeah. Yes. I was going to say that captivated by the variety and creativity of game mechanics is what kept me hooked. I didn't go hang out with that circle of friends from grad school because you said, hey, check out these game mechanics. It was, hey, let's hang out and do the shared experience together. Right?
Yeah.
And then the mechanics, like the I did not know that there was a world beyond Sorry and Monopoly and, playing gin rummy and stuff. Like, there's still a special place in my heart for that, but I didn't know there was a new world until you sat me down and you said, hey, check this out.
I remember distinctly thinking, hold on a second, if I've played Cosmic, and I've played Catan, and I like Agricola, and there's more than that? We had a common friend, C. David, who had a closet full of games. I couldn't even imagine a closet full of games.
He had, like, that amount, and it was...
Yeah. He had, like,
and it was like, whoa.
Let's go to... the next question. The next question was... Boom. What type of game do you think is best to introduce new players to the hobby? Party games, cooperative games, light strategy games, or classic games like Monopoly, Scrabble, etc.? Jay, what do you think? Here, wait, let me... Yeah. Do you need to look at that?
I was just looking at the options. Party... I mean, it's all nuanced, right? It's all about, like... I imagine that the kinds of games that you would have brought me... that you would have brought to the table with me would have been different from other people. If it's a party setting and you bust out Monopoly, it's gonna, bring the mood down. But you knew that I was into math. You knew that I was into thinking logically and that I would like a strategy sort of situation. It's fun to see kittens explode, but it's more fun to, like, hey, you'll like the mechanics in this. Like, check out... You gave me room, because you knew me, to explore, like, the logician side of me. And that got me.
There was actually an awesome... What you said reminds me of a great comment. It's this one. This is from Aravist Hitarkhina. No, I shouldn't read YouTube handles. I'm
well,
bad at it. I guess it depends. If someone who wants to know what the hype is all about, I think a light strategy would be good. But if they just want to have a good time, party games are the best option. Even with the lightest strategy games can turn into a hostage situation real quick if other people weren't ready for it.
A hostage situation. Yes. I mean, even like... Yeah, I cannot think of a game where especially early on when I was learning all of these, where I didn't feel like a hostage at some point. Like, it's Agricola. I'm 15 points behind. It's 3-18. Oof. I'm at our board game club on Cadena. We've had a few people show up because they heard that it was a good time, and they, like, complete lack of experience. And in those situations, I have seen the looks on the hostages' faces. They look so terrible. What did I walk into? Like, it's pretty scary to be on the... I've made that face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. So this is why, as I was preparing for this video, I decided I'm going to delineate between getting people into a game group and getting people into the hobby. Because if someone walks into the room and they're not ready, like, they needed access. They needed an anchor.
There is a distinction to be made there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, I'm going to jump back to another response that someone gave into one of the polls. I like this one, though. I think party games are mechanically not typical for board games. Therefore, I prefer cooperative games as intro. They allow deep mechanics, but don't let newbies lose because of lack of experience.
Yes. Here, here.
And then this other one from Chillionaire. For a night where my wife and I invite a few couples over for drinks, I'm going to be introducing a few new people to games. I'm going to try to get a mix of very light strategy and party games in the same night because I'm working with a range of personalities. I usually start with a few rounds of For Sale, then Love Letter or Sushi Go. Have you played these before?
Yeah. Sushi Go, yeah. We were going to play Draftosaurus last night.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
And then wrap up the night with Wavelength or Codenames or Dixit. Those are all party games depending on the current vibe. Goal is to move fast. Games where side conversations won't drag out the game and everyone has a chance of winning. If introducing one or two new people to games because they expressed interest in the hobby, I'm leaning towards King Domino, Downforce, Pandemic, Azul, and Summer Camp first. Then I'm branching out from there with them based on how it goes.
My sister and I, when I had met you and then I'd gone home to see my sister, Barry, we played. Oh no, where did it go? It was cooperative game, island. You got the tiles and you're trying to rebuild a spaceship and the island is like sinking around you. It's like there are three of these games.
Island, right?
Yes, those guys. That was like one of our first, like, hey, I want you to see this new thing that I've been working on in New York with you, and it was a cooperative game, and it was like an opportunity for us to be equals. I think that was a really good point about like cooperative games for people who you think have a reasonable chance at enjoying the hobby, but they might be nervous because it's all new and novel. Give them a cooperative game and, usher them in. We're all on the same side here. You're going to love this with me.
That was Barry?
Yeah.
Barry? Wow.
It was one of the first games we played.
That's really cool. I really liked... I'm really identifying the games that I can play while talking at the same time. So for us, like, Mountain Goats has been like that. Our Chaos Society has been like that. But I'm also thinking about what the other comment was about, party games and mechanically not typical for board games. So while I see the fun in some of those accessible games, if I'm trying to get them into the hobby, I want something that like invites them in a little bit. But what I liked about that response was this idea of a sequence. Mm-hmm. Like, first, get their attention. Second, get them hooked. Third, okay, now that this is our third time, let me show you something that I really like. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I only had one lived experience, but I know that I was at a party with Rita and Rob and all those folks from grad school, and at the party early on, that was my first exposure to Dixit. We played like several rounds of Dixit in a party setting, and I know that was other people's first experience of the game, and I remember having a great time, and I didn't know what was going on. That's like, Dixit isn't normally like my way of expressing my creativity. It felt nice and safe and fun. And yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That was some people's first experience in like the new age of games. And I wonder what that was like for them.
You know what was cool about Dixit is it was also a gorgeous game. Like,
that made it real easy to like. It was beautiful. It still is.
That was before components themselves were, people were still playing with wooden cubes for sheep and cows and everything. But yeah. Dixit had the artwork. It was just, wow. So what a pretty game. How do you play this?
All those board games. The generation of Cubes with friends. Cubes and cards with friends.
Cubes and cards with friends. All right. All right. So next, one more poll here, and then I'll share with you my recommendations for this sequence of games. But I'm going to do that at the end. All right. Back to poll screen. All right. So what's the ideal player count for introducing someone new to gaming? And I'm going to go into straight into two comments that came from this. So SPQRK Leo, depending on the game, but I think 3 or 4, so there's more interaction, but not so many that the new person feels like everyone else is barreling ahead of them or carrying them along. I'm going to put this alongside this one. I'm in the 3 to 4 camp, depending on others, depending, as others have said. One thing we try to focus on is the number of teachers. If 2 or 3 of us already know a game, then introducing 1 or 2 new individuals, we always make sure that there is one primary teacher, especially for the initiative or rules overview. The other people know that the games are there to help set up examples and provide some extra clarification if they think it'll help. But I find it's helpful to have one teacher's primary voice. Once we are into the game, everyone can chip in if they see an opportunity to help. But even if we find 2 people trying to explain a rule, we defer to the primary teacher. So what I liked about those two, well, actually, do you ever? Yeah.
I mean, what I liked is, especially that last one from Cheliner, was how I feel. Like, you've got your primary teacher, but when you have multiple people thinking of the same thing, you're going to have multiple people thinking of multiple different examples. And if I'm at a table with people who are trying to introduce me to the craft, they probably know who I am, what my personality is, what appeals to me. So if somebody's thinking about what they needed to hear when they were learning how to play their game, it gives the opportunity for somebody else to go, no, wait. What you want to hear is this. Like the possibility of augmenting the instruction process when you've got multiple people, instead of it just being one-on-one, like, then you just, either they're getting it right or they're not. Like, either they're like, we've all been in that situation where, general appeal, where, somebody's just explaining the game to you and it is falling flat. If you've got more people at the table, if you're really concerned with bringing somebody into the fold, and you have more people at the table, you have a greater chance at mitigating that, which I have seen. I've seen it enough where, like, that doesn't seem like it should be a concern at all until it is. But in general, yeah, a 1 to 2 person setup would be great if you're really familiar with that person. But otherwise, more people, somebody can be focused just naturally, just like it's not a conscious thing. Like, somebody could be focused on, I'm the explainer, I will be doing the explaining, and then somebody else has the role of just doing a temperature check, like, hey, he's getting tired here. Like, oh, wait, that's not really important. Those rules, like, that's big game that's big scoring end of game stuff. We'll get there when we get there.
I'm distracted by the fact that we are now talking about instruction, and as teachers, this is what we nerd out about most. Like, how far down this rabbit hole can we go about in terms of effective instruction? This is definitely
kind of getting meta. This is at our grad school we met learning how to be teachers.
Yes, that was. What did I write? Oh, yeah. I do think that there's something about starting with a big group and going small from there. Because there are some party games. Like, even though I recognize the validity of that comment that party games don't capture the nature of the hobby as well as light strategy games do. There are some party games that are more strategic than others. And with games like that, you can still get that strategy in there, but with more people, I think you ignite that social dynamic.
Yeah.
Get people excited, not because they're playing games, because the games they don't know how to do, but they do know how to connect with people. So connect with as many people as possible. Wow, I'm having a really fun time, and I'm doing something that I'm not confident with, and then break out. We did this last week. Like, him and I did this last week, because we had 8 people, 10 people eventually.
10.
But we started with 8. We did Decrypto, 2 teams of 4. Then we split up into 2 more people showed up, so then we had 10, and we split up into 2 tables of 5. And at that night, there were 3 brand new people. And I think that works even when you're not at a group night,
Right.
but like just within your family. And I like that idea of stages, but big to small, but not so small that it's only one-on-one instruction. All right. Now, at this point, if you have questions that you want to get ready, you can go ahead and write them in the live chat. I will share some of my recommendations for those 2 stages, from big to small and party to strategy. I don't know if you've got any, like, you can think of yours if you can, but all right. So I wrote down Decrypto. That's what we played last night. That one plays up to 8, at least it's recommended. Avalon plays up to 10.
Was that what they were playing at the other end when we were doing Cosmic?
They were playing the Resistance.
Yeah, it was
the other
one of
one?
those.
Yeah, it was a related game. The Crew, that plays up to 5. That's what we played. Yep. Trap Words, which, have you played Trap Words? Trap Words is a really nice one. It's a word guessing game like Taboo, but it still has this like strategic dynamic to it. I don't know if I've done a review for that, but maybe I will. Anyway, I would say like Archaeos Society has a really nice addictive nature to it, which is a good hook.
It does.
Yes.
My 6-year-old wanted to play it behind your back after you introduced it to him. Like,
Yeah. It's true.
It has good appeal.
If you're not familiar with Archaeos Society, it's the retheming of Ethnos. And then I got 2 other games that are like social but very strategic. So obviously Cosmic Encounter. And then the other one is Imperial. Have we played Imperial together?
I've not played it with you, no.
Okay, all right. Imperial is one of my favorite games because it involves a lot of negotiation, and it's a heavier strategy game. But then, go to the next step. So, there's so many good games these days, but one thing that I identified that new people are very comfortable with is cards. They like
Physically holding them?
What are the rules of this game? The rules of this game are in my hand. I can do these things. I have 3 cards. I have 3 things I can do. Which of the 3? Like, it outlines
I can read them whenever
gameplay.
I'm looking. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Mine.
and it also has this like element of strategic. Like, these are my secret things. No one knows what they are, but like I get this game because my 3 cards or my 4 cards, whatever, they tell me what to do. And almost all of my games that I've recommended are card games. So, for example, Concordia. Like, awesome, not only because it's a card game, but because you're adding cards to your deck or to your hand, and it's getting bigger and bigger. Arc Nova is another one where you've got 5 cards. The 5 cards spell out the rules for you. And at every turn in Arc Nova, your cards get stronger. And then when you use them, they get weaker. So you've always got like this bias towards whatever the strongest card is. Brass, which is also a very popular game within the hobby. Brass Birmingham. So that's got cards. Revive, amazing game. And Rococo. I'm not going to go into the other ones. They're a little bit more complicated, but awesome. The only one that's not a card game on my list is the White Castle, which we played last night.
Yes.
And that's dice worker placement. But essentially you've got about 3 main important things. Mm-hmm. So very limited focus, and yet so much unfolds from that.
There was a lot of, you do this, and then this causes this, and then this causes that, and then that causes that. And along the way you can choose. It kind of felt like, in a really weird abstract way, like we were playing Plinko, but I had like the ability, like, as it was falling through the options, like I could nudge it one way or the other.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, not cards though. But it was fun. It wasn't that heavy. It was light. It was nice. Medium.
Do you have any other recommendations?
For card games?
No, for introduction games.
I really liked Pandemic, and I just wanted to go back to that. I've introduced Pandemic to people as a cooperative game in a social setting. It was also like, it was Pandemic. It was appropriate. It was thematically appropriate. Like, my mom, that was the first game that we played, and it was during pandemic times. Like, my mom was brought up playing backgammon and, classic stuff. So I was like, you will like this new kind of game. And
that's cool.
This is like a weird, I don't even know if what I'm about to say is outdated, but there were games during the pandemic that became, my friends and I during the pandemic were looking for games that we could play remotely. And we made Catan work, where we all set up. There was a lot of front loading beforehand. We set up a deck a certain way, and then we shuffled it a certain way, and we all agreed on the rules of so we all had the same decks and everything. And I think that some consideration can be given to a kind of game that could work through Zoom, which is like its own weird little category. I don't know what kinds of games would work. I haven't really thought that much. What are good examples of games that would work through remote video?
I think the principle of accessibility. Here's a game that we can play in so many different ways. That hooks. We did a lot of games online with Pandemic as well.
Carcassonne would be another one, because that one's just tile placement and it's friendly. I introduced Lauren to Takenoko. That was one of her first games, and the theme brought her in and kept her wanting to keep playing it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We didn't really talk about theme today, but it is a very powerful tool. All right. So, at this time, I'm going to look at the questions in the live chat, and if anyone is working on those questions, I do have one that's loaded and ready to go. So, the question is, what about simultaneous gameplay? Games that have everyone doing something at the same time. Roll and writes, for an example. Do you have any examples of games with simultaneous gameplay?
You mean other than Cosmic, where you have to find out did two people act in good faith and they're negotiating, or is somebody attacking somebody else?
No, everyone's doing their main action at the same time.
Why am I struggling here?
Have you played a roll and write before?
No.
Really?
A roll and write?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, we've got to try that genre out.
Okay.
So I think a roll and write is worth experiencing.
Sure.
Personally, I have some games with simultaneous gameplay that I love. I've done a whole video about my favorite games with simultaneous gameplay. The nice thing about them is that they keep the games moving. There's no downtime. It's always your turn, but you're doing things to interact with people at the same time. Speaking of simultaneous gameplay, I want to show you Daybreak, because Daybreak is Pandemic with everyone taking their turn at the same time.
That sounds a little Calvin Ball.
Ish.
Okay.
It's and you're not fighting a disease. You're preventing global warming. It's by, in part, Matt Leacock, the same designer. It's worth trying. Anyway, to the question: simultaneous gameplay. The advantage there is that when you're playing games with simultaneous turns, there's no downtime. It can be extremely engaging. The problem I've always had, and why I actually often avoid them, is because it's very hard to monitor if everyone is playing by the rules.
Oh.
Yeah. If everyone's getting the help they need. With people who have more experience, they are more equipped to these are the rules? Yeah, I can play that. But if someone's a little uncomfortable, it can be a little bit more difficult for them to play successfully. They need that help of being able to watch somebody else's example.
My friends Bridget and Jeff introduced me to a game whose name I don't remember, so if you remember it, get in the comments. The idea of, alright, so it's like a maze. It takes place in a mall, and it's modular, so you put down little chunks of the mall. Everyone gets assigned a piece, a color, and everyone gets one roll. Like, you have to take this piece in the mall, and you have to move it around the mall to complete objectives. But there are multiple pieces. They all have to do their objectives. You are limited to only being allowed to move the piece north or south or east or west. Like, you can only move pieces north. I can only move pieces east. The mall is set up kind of like a labyrinth, and we need this piece to get over there. So if you can only move the piece north, you can drag it all the way to a wall, but then somebody has to move the piece east to get around the wall to keep going up the hallway or something. So everyone at all times is looking at this map, and you just have to remember, okay, I can only move this way. And there's, it's a silent game, which is also an added level of complexity. You can't just say, like, Ben, that piece, move it. Oh my goodness.
It's called Magic Maze?
Is it called Magic Maze?
I don't know. I haven't played Magic Maze, but I feel like that's it. Isn't that the piece that has, like, the do something now?
Yeah, the do something now piece. Just such a great mechanic. Like, that, but there's an actual piece for that. Is that called Magic Maze? So
I can't remember. I haven't played it yet. I've looked up the rules and stuff, but I maybe that's it. You know what? If people are watching now, they'll know. We have people watching, but oh man, not the most active chat we've ever seen. No one knows. No one knows.
I'm not blaming my audience.
They're
they're
like my lifeline. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They helped me before. I forget designers' names. I stare at the camera, look like an idiot for like 3 seconds, and then someone drops the name, and it's awesome.
It's bacon. Yeah, maybe it was Magic Maze. Oh, I feel so bad. Right. Bridget and Jeff are in a time zone where they are asleep. They are asleep right now.
No. It's evening. It should be like 5 p.m., right?
Oh, no, I know.
Are they in a different time zone? They're traveling.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that was the thing that was frustrating about me about that to me was it was a new experience for me, and it was a confusing game, and there was a lot of stuff to watch, and we're like 2/3 the way through, and it turns out that somebody else at the table didn't understand what they were and weren't allowed to do, and so while we were all playing simultaneously, someone was kind of, I don't know how to put this in a polite way, but like, the victory was kind of asterisked, right? Like it was robbed. And I was like, I just put in so much like mental effort and strain to like make sure I was doing it right and pulling my weight, and we get all the way here, and it turns out that we maybe shouldn't even have gotten to this game state because you were just, moving pieces around like you shouldn't have been, and it kind of cheapened the victory. In that like little thing, like, oh, do we have to start over? Like, okay, I guess this was another good practice round, even though it took 40 minutes. Actually, I don't think I'm calling it Magic Maze without knowing what else to call it. But like a situation like that, where you get all the way to the end and you go, oh, that didn't even count. It was a fun experience with people, right? Like, look, that was a fun experience.
Is that the game?
Yeah, it was Magic Maze.
Okay, all right, there we go.
That's it.
Resolved.
Oh, yeah. All right. Like, if the point of the... Oh, I feel torn. Because I have never played a one-player tabletop. Like, as a one-player. I've never done that.
It's a horrible way to introduce people to games.
It is...
Have fun!
Here's your box, bye. But, like, as someone who likes playing board games, like going on a campaign mode, I've never actually sat down and done it. But, so to me, like, clearly that's evidence that part of the reason that I like playing board games is for the social aspect of it. So who cares if the victory was cheapened because somebody was over there just being weird?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm like, oh, we were building something. I don't know. I really, even now, and this happened months ago, even now I'm still thinking about it. Like, it's so silly, but... Like, we had fun. The table had fun. We all laughed. The scofflaw. If you are
in the game hobby, if you're in this hobby, then caring about rules and doing it right is part of how you begin to think.
Yeah.
You adopt that thinking. And so, yeah, it makes sense that you're like, oh, man, I had so much fun, but the fact that we played it wrong still bothers me. Like, that's... Like, congratulations, you are now a gamer. You did it. You have been effectively introduced to board games.
Yeah. It was fun with my friends at the table. It was a good time. And because it was fun and we, like, there was some light ribbing, but we kept going, we played that game again. We played other games afterwards. No one became sour, right? Like, and that's the whole thing. Like, keep it light, keep it moving. It ended up, like, you just kind of say, okay, that was a practice round. Reset to 0. Yeah.
All right. We will end on that today. Thank you again for watching.